Cultivate or cultivate, Fáilte go dtí, Global Impact.
Hello from Vermont in the United States. Welcome to Global Impact.
Hola, mi nombre es Sheila Escobedo. Me encuentro en la ciudad de Guatemala. Bienvenidos a la conferencia de Impacto Global.
مرحبا من اسطنبول وأهلا وسهلا بجلوبال إمباكت.
مرحبا، معكم سوسن من شيكاغو فلسطين. أهلا وسهلا بجلوبال إمباكت.
Saludos desde Santiago en Chile y bienvenido o bienvenida a Global Impact.
Hello from White Plains, New York in the United States. Welcome to Global Impact.
Pozdrowienia z Glasgow w Szkocji. Witaj w Global Impact.
Hello from Charlotte, North Carolina in the United States. Welcome to Global Impact.
Hello et bonjour from Alberta, Canada. Welcome to Global Impact.
Hello from Montreal and welcome to Global Impact.
Hello from Houston, Texas in the United States. Welcome to Global Impact.
Hello from Lynchburg, Virginia in the United States. Welcome to Global Impact.
Tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai hari mai ki te Global Impact. He mihi nui kia koutou mai I turanga nui a kiwa Aotearoa.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Priya Kennedy, je suis la chef du conseil étudiante à l'école de study et je vous souhaite la bienvenue à la conférence sur l'impact international.
Hi, my name is Sophie. I'm the sub-head girl on student council at a school called The Study based in Montreal. We hope that you enjoy the Global Impact Conference.
Yes.
Welcome to the Global Impact Conference. I'm Amelia Leogas from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Before we begin, I would like to read a traditional land acknowledgement. We are located on the unceded traditional territory of the Kanekekaka people. Nous reconnaissons que nous sommes situés sur des terres qui ont été des lieux de créativité, d'histoire et de transmission orale durant plusieurs milliers d'années avant nous. We are deeply grateful and honored that we are able to create, collaborate, play, and work here. La présence continue des peuples autochtones ici et ailleurs démontre la force et ses communautés et leur capacité à protéger leur langue, leur famille, et leur façon de vivre. We understand that a land acknowledgement is more than words. C'est un appel à l'action qui nous rappelle notre responsabilité collective et individuelle, à nous éduquer sur le passé et à l'honorer. We are ready to work toward a better future for all who live on this land. Nyawen. I'm a member of the Global Impact Organizing Team, and I'm the host for this session. This year, our theme is Elevating the Human Story, putting human stories back at the heart of education. Through amplifying global educator voices, we will explore storytelling as pedagogy, leadership, and ethical technology use, connecting classrooms worldwide, centering dignity, equity, and lived experience in learning. We want to begin with a message of peace in these turbulent times. At Global Impact, we believe that education is one of the most powerful forces for peace in the world. Across borders, languages, and cultures, we come together, not to agree on everything, but to listen, to learn, and to build something better together. In a time where division is easy, we choose connection. In a world that often speaks loudly, we choose to understand deeply. Each voice in this conference represents not just a country, but a commitment to compassion, curiosity, and shared humanity. Peace is not something we wait for. It is something we practice through dialogue, through collaboration, and through the work we do with our students every day. This is our global impact. I'm honored to be part of the Global Impact community. Today alone, we have 34 presenters, 17 organizers working behind the scenes, all representing 22 countries across 6 continents. And that doesn't include all of you, the incredible participants taking part in today's sessions. When people from this many backgrounds and experiences come together, powerful things happen. Today isn't just about sharing ideas, it's about sparking connections, challenging perspectives, and driving meaningful change forward. And now, on to our main session for this hour. This session is in English. If we need to turn on the captions, please do so by following the directions using the link in the chat. We have an incredible lineup of speakers today, and this session's presenter is one of them. It's my pleasure to introduce Marcela Cecilia Danowski. Marcela is an English educator, teacher trainer, and educational consultant based in Buenos Aires, Argentina, with over 20 years of experience across primary, tertiary, and teacher education contexts. Marcela is currently pursuing a master's degree in neuropedagogy and is particularly proud of her work designing and implementing slow-looking and visual thinking projects that foster engagement, empathy, and global awareness in diverse classroom settings. Marcela, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What a pleasure, what an honor to be part of Global Impact 2026. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, right? And welcome to this presentation titled Slow Stories in a Fast World, Teaching Global Empathy Through Observation, right? So as you can see, our main objective in this presentation has to do with slowing down, with exploring how through observation, something that probably we often take for granted, but through observation, we can have such a powerful tool so as to develop critical thinking, deeper thinking, and most importantly, global empathy in our students, right? And this is quite a simple idea, I know, slowing down, engaging our students with visual aids, but with real world aids as well, input that comes from our real world, so as to create a richer space of understanding, of connections, and most meaningful use as well of the language. So welcome everybody, and I really hope that you can enjoy the session and get lots of practical ideas, because that's basically what I would like to share with you. But we need to get started from the very beginning. And I've got to ask you this: what are students really seeing? I invite you to think about your classroom reality. I mean, our students are constantly exposed to images, text, information, I know, but sometimes they just look at them, they recognize the genre, they work with it, they respond to our dynamics. Okay, but one thing is responding, recognition, and another thing, way much deeper, has to do with understanding. And you know what? Understanding requires paying attention. It requires time. It requires being able to interpret. And I know that we do not do this intentionally. No, this thing of running out of time or not providing them with that necessary time, but we keep our students into that surface level, let's say, of engagement. So I invite you once again to take a minute. Think about your reality. Think about what happens inside your classroom. Take a minute. This is our thinking time. How often does it happen that your students just simply stay with an image, with a text, but they stay there in that surface level without exploring it deeply? How often do they ask questions that are not just simply prompted by us? How often do they notice details that probably are not that obvious? Well, let me tell you that those moments are a must. They are essential for learning. But I know because of the pace of our lessons, because of the pressures or whatever it is, we tend to just simply move forward and we don't allow them to have that necessary time right? To fully engage with the material. So I know there is a big problem in here, right? It's such a broad issue. Fast consumption of information tends kind of to produce this sort of superficial understanding. I know our students may complete our activities and they might do that correctly, but still, is that what we're truly looking for? Without any deep, really understanding or processing. I know engagement can be present in our classes, but if that is just something short, is that enough? And most importantly, how about empathy? Empathy is affected because understanding others requires time. It requires imagination, reflection. So without all of these key ingredients, somehow the learning that is taking place in our classroom is totally disconnected with reality, with real human experiences, I'm afraid. So that's quite an issue. But I've got a sort of solution for you. I got this swift idea, this approach that we do all need. It's like moving from that fast whirl, fast pace that we do have in our lessons into a slower one. And it doesn't mean that we need to reduce content. Don't panic, okay? It just simply means that we need to increase the depth in which we engage our students into our lessons. It's moving from answers that sometimes we just simply give to our students into more questions that encourage students to explore things, right? Rather than just simply, okay, think about the answer and we close the subject, the topic, the content, and that's it. It's moving from the content to meaning so that we can focus on the understanding and not just simply, okay, a tick into this, it's done, checked. It's moving from a task to an experience of learning, an experience that can transform learning into something that students can connect with. All right, so it's a swift, right? But not one that has to do with a methodology, let's say, right? It's a swift that has to do with slowing down, with thinking of empathy like a moment that our students have to observe, to question, to interpret, right? To extend their learning somehow, right? So slow looking is our perfect strategy that we can start implementing in our lessons, right? For the ones who do not know, slow looking comes from Project 01 from Harvard University. It's a further step. And it started basically being like a sort of project that worked specifically with pictures, with art, but then they realized that any visual aid, any object, anything, even a piece of text, right, can provide students with that opportunity to slow down, to have more time, to be able to notice details, to produce more complex interpretations, right? So in our classroom, that means to say that instead of moving on quickly into the following activity, the following content, we need to stop and think. Think to unfold something even greater, okay? So slow looking matters. Slow looking can make a difference in our classroom, right? It does have a huge impact, right? Because it works on critical thinking, because the students need to analyze, account for the ideas, for the choices. It fosters curiosity, by keeping them questioning themselves rather than just simply answering questionnaires and that's it, the end of the subject, the end of that lesson. And it supports empathy because students begin to connect emotionally as well with everything that they are observing. And obviously, if you're a language teacher, it does also support language protection because we are moving from just a simple answer to something longer, extended, in which language is part of it, obviously. So as you can see, it's not just simply an isolated strategy. It supports multiple purposes in our learning and teaching. And I think that this is extremely important when we need to foster global empathy. Because once again, we keep on asking our students to be critical thinkers, to be creative learners, to make use of their knowledge into something tangible, but we also want them to be global citizens. And that has to do with global empathy. It has to do with not just simply understanding individuals and how different we are, but it's also about the environment. It's also about global issues that shape our lives, their lives, and they need to connect with those stories personally, right? And they need to connect with topics such as climate change, inequality, access to education, for example. So that kind of empathy is also part of the learning. It's not just simply learning and teaching a language. It's an essential skill for today's world. And learners need to be ready to interpret those complex realities and be ready to respond to that reality with awareness, with responsibility. And that needs to be fostered in our classes. And it's our responsibility as well, let me tell you. So here we go. Observation, thinking, empathy. Look at that progression. We start with something as simple as observing. That is our starting point, right? It grounds thinking in evidence. And thinking allows the students to interpret, to make meaning of what they're learning. And then empathy just simply pops out, emerges when students connect with what they're learning, when they connect with being human, with their global context. And I'm afraid that if we rush observation, then again, I keep on insisting on this, we are just simply staying in that superficial level. And empathy remains limited, right? So this is a process that really matters if we want to see that outcome, okay? So what can we do, all right? And I've got a classroom challenge, let's say, because in practice, okay, our students often approach those tasks, those activities, right? Sometimes with this intention of just simply getting rid of it as soon as possible, but it happens that they provide short answers, they're not fully engaged, and they're sometimes uncomfortable, uncertain. Okay, so I've got a change for you. How about questioning? No, you can make the change by making use of questions. Observation-based questions help to slow down the process and invite the students to fully engage, right? And it allows the students to just simply avoid thinking on simple, superficial ideas, no? And it invites them to build on their ideas, on making use of their prior knowledge and creating even something new. It's not just simply responding to the task, okay? So ask your students questions like, what is happening? What do you notice? What makes you say that? What might be the story about, right? And if you're not ready, okay, try with something simpler, with a simple structure, a clear structure that can help students and even those quiet ones, get them activated. right? And ask them to observe silently, to share ideas with their peers, to build on their own interpretations, okay? And turn those observations as well into stories. Like, who's that person? What might have happened before? What will happen next? But storytelling extends thinking beyond what it's that immediate image that they have, no? And they're engaged with the context, they're engaged with the sequence of events, with human experience, right? It's a process that implies transforming a simple image into a complex opportunity, a complex learning opportunity, I would say. And you can even make use of simple routines, no? Like the typical one that I'm pretty sure you might have heard of and you might have even used in your classrooms, the see, think, and wonder. So you show them an image, you ask them to observe, no, to think, reflect on their observations, to wonder, to explore deeply. So you see that with this routine, what you're doing basically is you scaffold their thinking by separating observation, interpretation, questioning. That helps to guide our students into their process of organizing their thinking and therefore their responses. And obviously it does support classroom management. It gives like stages, expectations, clear expectations, right? And this progressively is somehow internalized, yeah? But you see everything with an image and helping them to get deeper into that image, getting engaged with the material. But what else can we do? These were 2 easy challenges for you. Let me share some key ideas for the different levels that you can easily adapt them, okay? So I'm going to share flexible ideas, right, with slow looking on how to foster empathy. Are you ready? For primary level, zoom in and zoom out, okay? So it's quite simple, this one. It's kind of a controlled activity that fosters curiosity. You only reveal a part of an image, and therefore students are engaged to start creating hypotheses and thinking on those details that progressively you will be showing them. So as new information appears, they keep on building and building their knowledge, right? So it's real cognitive process, and it does support as well engagement. And obviously there is a fantastic reason and a natural reason for them to use English to speak, to predict. Another technique for primary level as well, but again, you can easily adapt them, is freeze and feel. This kind of activity integrates physical movement, emotions, right? So perfect for kinesthetic students. So you show them, again, a visual aid. They have to represent that image, that pose. Students engage themselves with that image, with their body, way much better. And these supports young learners who probably often understand emotions through actions, no? So when emotions are quite abstract, and being able to transfer that into language is even more complex. So it does create like a memorable learning experience, yeah? Another one, find 5 things, right? In this one, what basically you do is you show them, again, an object, an image, and you ask them to focus on it. You give them a clear goal, right? Okay, find 5 colors, 5 objects, 5 actions. So clear objective, so that helps them maintain attention. At the same time, it does allow them, no, to be flexible and open to discussion, to different responses. So it's a perfect balance, let's say, in between, okay, structure, but still flexibility, which is key at this level, for instance. Then draw what you see. This is beautiful as well for those who need to go through learning and the body. So you give them the opportunity of looking at the object, the image for a minute. And this is an activity that fosters attention, because later on, after that minute, they've got to make a drawing from the memory. So they have to be completely aware, of what they are drawing. And then when you show them again the image, show the object, okay, it's being aware at the same time of everything that they missed. And why is it that they didn't pay attention to it? Why? Certain details were relevant and not the others. So it creates a kind of natural motivation so as to observe more carefully next time. Okay, so it's perfect for visual students, and it does integrate as well cognitive processing information with visual one. Yeah. Upper primary level, still primary, but higher. So what changed? What is that? At this level, students are going to start comparing, analyzing, identifying changes, and you show them one image, you hide it, and then you show another version slightly different from the first one, from the original. So this activity requires careful observation and memory. And it also introduces the idea that, okay, meaning can change based on what? On those details, right? Again, paying attention to details, all right? Then another one for upper level, before and after. Okay. This activity works with temporal thinking. So ask them, what happened before this moment, the moment that is portrayed in that image? What will happen next? So think about a sequence of event, think about casualty. So they begin to understand that images represent moments within a large story, within a context. And this is perfect for narrative thinking, narrative writing. So it does develop inferential thinking as well, how important it is. For secondary level, different perspectives, one of my favorites, and especially because later on, after this activity, I can do, argumentative essays. So perspective takes time, understanding the different perspectives, and it's crucial for secondary level students. So they have to be able to interpret how a situation can change depending on the position that we are taking. So show them an image and ask them to take different roles. Okay, you're going to be a journalist, a child, a parent. Okay, and these not only develops a critical thinking, but also fosters empathy, because students start recognizing that there is no single way of understanding one particular situation. A silent conversation, right? This is a strategy that slows maybe interaction, but it does increase inclusion, because students may write comments, questions about the image, the object that they are being shown, and they should only respond in writing. So, okay, we need to slow down, okay? And it's a fantastic opportunity for those students who are reluctant to participate and orally. For the quieter students, this is perfect. And it's the moment in which the classroom turns into a reflection environment, a space, a safe space for reflection, instead of rushing into immediately answering. No, it's about questioning, it's about reflecting. And we do it in a safe environment like writing, yeah? Fact versus interpretation. Students got to say what they see and what they think. So distinguishing between what is seen and what is inferred is essential. This supports academic skills, obviously, especially when it comes to reading, writing tasks, but it also helps them to be more aware of their assumptions, right? Missing context. Okay, I love this one. It's showing them an image, but without much background information. So the context is something that they have to reveal, that they have to find out. So clearly, this activity is the one that makes thinking visible, because students often realize how their interpretations can change and how their experiences are so powerful, because through their background information, experiences, they will also shape the way in which they make those assumptions, no? And it also promotes openness, because all of us will have different versions to create in that context for the picture. The human story, you show them again a visual aid, and you start asking them, who is this person? What challenges might that person face? What do they need? So this is beautiful, again, to foster global empathy, right? So it's about broadening the conditions in which they are engaged and affected towards that image. It's connecting in a more personal way with the image and with global aspects, obviously. It's a little bit more complex, I know, but it's quite interesting to foster the deep learning, let's say. Headlining it, well, again, an image, and they have to create news headlines, right? So this is perfect to connect it with literacy, right? They got to decide what is most important to communicate and how they're going to communicate that clearly, right? So critical reading, literacy, perfect for this one. Change the narrative. So, okay, how would this story look in another country? What about in the future, in 10, 5 years? So global thinking in here. It's expanding our perspective, our context. It's changing our own perspective and moving into different cultures, into different span times. So this does also allow flexibility in thinking and deepening understanding of global issues and global diversity. So I know there are many, many other ideas. I just shared like some key activities that you can just start applying in your classes, regardless of the level, because I keep on insisting that you can easily adapt them, right? But if you're a language teacher, you see that slow looking, any of these activities and many others that you might think of can help develop language. So don't panic, right? Because language is embedded through speaking, discussion, writing, developing stories, vocabulary, through the description. So lots and lots of benefits through slow looking. But it's important for you to know that if you want to start applying slow looking, bear in mind that you can make use of anything. I keep insisting on this. Slow looking started like a methodology that was through painting, through the art. But nowadays, you can use cartoons, any sort of illustration, easily. AI-generated images that can adapt to the content that you want to foster, that you want to work on. Any sort of image that you can take from any website, from a magazine, a newspaper, or even everyday objects, okay? So you can make the implementation of slow looking something way much more realistic, okay? And as long as you help them connect with global issues, that is what truly matters, okay? And then when you start applying slow looking, I invite you to ask them this question: what changed when you slow down? The questioning helps them work on metacognition, right? When students think about their understanding and how that understanding has changed, they become way much more aware of the learning process, right? And that helps, because these can be easily transferred into other contexts. And well, from observation to empathy at this stage, well, you will see the outcomes. they will be visible if you start implementing slow looking progressively. I'm not saying that on Monday you start just working on slow looking on daily basis, but progressively, gradually, when they internalize how it works, this idea of slowing down, you'll see that they will be able to understand content, but in a different way, even connect with that content emotionally and socially, by respecting diversities, by respecting individuality and learning about global context, right? And this will have clearly an impact in your classroom because this approach will engage your students and they will participate more actively, and with a greater depth in their thinking, right? And they will be way much more confident when expressing their ideas. They're not going to feel frustrated or no more shy students, let's say. But remember that your role as a teacher, if you are applying slow looking, is not to rush, but to give them time. So we are evolving like teachers, okay? So we are facilitators of thinking. So give them time, accept that awkward silence, and value, respect all perspectives, all ideas, guide the discussions without wrapping it up that quickly. Allow them to keep on discussing. And it's important to start small, like I told you. Maybe it's just not implementing like huge changes all of a sudden, but it's 5 minutes every week. It's using carefully the images, selecting powerful images. It's making that moment of slow looking really effective. It's not about slow looking every single day, but about making good use of it, asking good open questions instead of everything super guided and expecting a one-fit-all answer, right? And avoid giving them the answer, right? Forget about time constraints. I know we're constantly rushing the curriculum, the planning, but I'm afraid that it's essential to enjoy the process, to think of learning as a process, I'm afraid, because if we want to have global citizens and we want them to foster empathy, that requires time, right? And remember that our objective is not just simply for them to use English or whatever language it is that we are teaching. It's about getting them ready for the real world, getting them ready to understand this complex world, and diversity and critical thinking and global issues. So we need to get them ready for real world, and therefore we need to bring the real world to our classes through images and through slowing down, right? One small change, one moment of observation can be that small step that your classes need to create a deeper understanding, a deeper learning, an opportunity actually for learning. And that would transform the classroom culture, create space for human stories. So remember that with slow looking, we get to look, but we get to see and to describe. And then we get to analyze. And you analyze only when you can be ready to interpret, right? So look at that cognitive process, right? One builds on the other until we get to deeper understanding, right? So thank you once again for choosing this presentation. I hope you can make good use of it, take practical ideas that you can start implementing in your lessons, and most importantly, supporting your students with their thinking process and providing them with real opportunities to understand the world. Let's keep in touch. You've got over there my email address, my Instagram account. So thank you once again. And I really look forward to reading all of your comments, okay? And let's keep in touch. Thank you, Global Impact, for the kind invitation.
Marcela, you've given us much to reflect on. Your phrase, fast consumption leads to superficiality, truly made me pause. It speaks to how often we rush through experiences without taking the time to think deeply or engage meaningfully. Your focus on fostering global empathy in our students feels especially powerful right now, in a world that is constantly shifting and evolving. More importantly, you've not only challenged us to rethink our approach, but also provided practical, accessible ways to begin making those changes in our classrooms. Marcela, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your expertise.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. And as you said, simple steps, no, but still meaningful. Okay, so put them in practice and let's see if we can make the difference inside of our classrooms.
Thank you. We definitely will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Up next, we have a spotlight story from Joel Garza from the United States. We wanted to highlight incredible stories from around the globe of how educators are making a global impact in their classrooms. Our pre-recorded spotlight story is about Space and Place, a narrative storytelling for student flourishing. Let's give a watch.
Hello and welcome to Global Impact. My name is Joel Garza. I'm a high school English teacher at Green Hill School in Addison, Texas, and I'm here to celebrate the work that my juniors did in a course called Narrative Nonfiction. If you want to know about narrative nonfiction, just look at that motto there. It's a course in which we read and write the book of experience, rather than reading and writing about texts outside there. We read and write the book of experience. And in this case, we are grounding a unit in story and in family, in space and in place. At the beginning of the unit, I asked them, what is the true north of your emotional compass? What is the direction that your family compass points in? What is the direction in which your artistic compass points? Take me there. This is some of the scholarly and interpersonal context. We have scholars that we read to ground what we mean by space and place. And we also just get onto Google Maps and show one another, this is my grandparents' village. This is the hill in the camp where I spend some of my summers. This is the breakfast place that my parents and I love. There is freedom and there are parameters. And this unit wound up being a success because of this balance here. It wound up being a success also, maybe primarily, because of this scholar, Yifu Tuan, who inspired me, who outlines a difference between space, which is physical navigation where we don't pause, and place where we pause and where we make and shape meaning. There were readings that my students did to ground their understanding, that recognizing that we can glean meaning if we just pause and think long enough, if we read the book of our experience. The work of Yifu Tuan recognizes that place and home can be complicated, that we can often feel an alien in the places that we call home. And this writing process is a chance to make sense of those complicated feelings, to do the kind of critical reading that too many courses limit to canonical texts rather than the text of our lives. The mentor texts that I used were great examples of finding meaning where you are, of looking to your own physical spaces, to building your own shape, narrating on your own terms. These essayists, most of them poets, really gave my students a new understanding of the shape of a narrative, that it doesn't have to be a kind of heroic confrontation of a conflict that rises to a climax and resolves with some falling action, but that instead you might have a story shape that was an inventory. What are the items on the shelves in that place? What are the pieces of athletic equipment that I put on when I'm there? You can have a different shape that is a kind of then and now, back and forth, a split screen story. This is the space as I understood it there. Upon reflection, these are the things that were impacting me deeply, even though I'm only now intellectualizing its impact. And finally, this is a place that I return to over and over again. How can I get deeper and deeper and narrower so that I am no longer jet skiing the surface of that place, but I am dropping anchor and with you, for you, my reader, doing a deep dive in what that place can mean for me and what similar spaces might mean in your life. Midway through my students writing about a ranch that their family visits, the village in Gujarat where they are from, midway through, I had to nudge them away from mere physical detail. I had to remind them, you're not describing this place for the visually impaired. You are digging deep. You are seeing you and your people there, not just the physical details. This thing needs to be not just factual, but true, personally true. Some ways that I walked them into a deeper engagement midway through their drafting and thinking about these places were these 4 questions. What if in that place you had made a different choice? What if this place has a life all its own when you're not there? What happens when you are there? What happens when your grandparents are there alone? What if this place has or had a different ending for you? Imagine that you're never able to go back there again. Imagine that place gets sold or renovated. And finally, what if we take a different approach? What if we're able to, as a writing exercise, imagine ourselves as a character, not merely as the narrator? What if this was a story about he or she or they rather than you? Because these are deeply personal stories, it helps to drive them to see their authenticity through the lens of somebody that knows you well in the classroom. So our course, and this unit in particular, flourished because we sat down next to each other and we read through each other's stories with curiosity, with generosity. This was not a haphazard ad hoc peer review where you just said good job. I was inspired by the Academy Award nominations, and I challenged them to think, what do you see? What do you hear? In what ways is this place adapted through the writing of this particular friend of yours? In what ways does this writer edit and juxtapose in powerful ways. The stories that came out of this I've already hinted at. It's difficult to talk about the successes without remembering some of these students, without remembering the story of their last competitive gymnastics practice there, without remembering all of those episodes in these vignette-driven stories about the stage, without remembering walking out of that family home, without remembering one of my favorites is a young man saying, in India, young people, they've got motorcycles. Like, I'm going to have a different kind of tone and pace because I know this village best on a motorcycle. Others leaned into grandparents, their gratitude for what they have as a religious tradition, their gratitude for what that grandparent did with their hands in their shop. This is a very quick walk through this unit where my students took us on an emotional and personal journey. I would love to talk to you more about this unit. The resources are linked at that bit.ly. My email is there.
Joelle has me rethinking what it really means for students to learn. This idea of reading and writing, the book of experience, shouldn't be confined to language classes. It feels like an invitation to rethink every subject. What would it look like if students didn't just consume knowledge but actually lived it? If science meant designing and testing in the real world? If history meant stepping into perspectives and shaping narratives? If math meant solving problems that exist beyond a worksheet? It's a simple idea on the surface, but it quietly challenges how we structure learning. Not just reading the world as it is, but giving students the agency to write their place within it. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us during this live session as part of the Global Impact Virtual Conference. From our whole global team, we are grateful for your participation. Please continue with us today at the Global Impact by joining the next live session. You can find more information about our live presenters at our website at www.globalimpacteducators.org. Our next presenter is Kwame from Zambia, and the session begins at the top of the hour. We'd also like to invite you to join us at the 2026 ISTE ASCD conference. Whether you're joining live or virtually, we will have content for you. We will have sessions and a group meetup. Make sure to follow us on social media for more details launching soon. We have a discount code which should appear in your chat window. If you use it by May 1st when registering, you'll get a discount on registration. Thanks ISTE and ASCD for that little gem. Lastly, follow us on social media. We're on most channels at Global Impact Educators, and of course, you can find us on our website. Thanks again for joining. See you at the top of the hour for the next session.